seeing out there from your players in terms of being kind of that locked in mentality that you want from them at this point?
I mean, last couple of days, I think they look comfortable. Focus is good. Attention to details is important this time of year. And so, as I told them yesterday, I mean, physically they're ready to play. Now it becomes, what's going on between the years and the mental part of it. And so, they're in a good space. You've been there for a while there now. So it's just a matter of managing your energy and getting yourself ready to try to play your best game of the season Friday night.
When you lost 5 straight in January, what's going through your mind? Are you concerned or what?
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting time, and obviously I've been involved in the game a long period of time, so you rely on some of the experience that you might have personally. But, it's like dealing with life. I mean, life happens. We're playing a game, and certain things happen within your games, and within the season, there's going to be adversity. On how do you handle it? And so as a coach, every game, whether we win or we lose, I look at it different ways. I mean, what do we do well? Most games, we do things well, and so you address those things and you present that to your players. And then, what didn't we do well in that game? And there's games where you win and you play well, but there's still things you need to work on as far as details and how you're pushing the process to become better. And so after those two things, it's like, okay, Monday, what do we need to do to get better? And that's part of what we do as coaches. It's you look at the results, and if you lose, you're disappointed. But in the big picture, it's how do we get better? And that's what you do. And then you try to address the team and get them to understand. You got to trust the process. You got to understand yourself as an individual and how you get better. And if you don't have adversity, you're not going to find out the best version of yourself. Whether that's individually, and adversity is coming in different directions. We've got 23 young ladies, and they all have personal lives, and things are going on in their world, and within our team the same thing happens. So there aren't many seasons as a coach, any team that I've been involved in, that you don't face adversity. It's just our expectations are so high that all of a sudden you lose 5 games in a row, and everybody thinks the end is there. What's going on? And so I go to church. People are asking me, what's going on? I go to the grocery store. What's going on? It's like, well, we're playing hockey. We're trying to figure out how to win games. And right now, we're sort of stuck in that. But it's always the process. And so as a coach, it's always what's next. And that's the problem we have as coaches. You're always trying to figure out what's next and how do you get better. But again, we went through that. We came out of it, generally positive, and then knowing that the latter part of our schedule is going to be challenging and difficult as it is, we grew and we became better. So if we hadn't gone through that, I'm not sure we would have had to finish that year too. So welcome to coaching. I mean, that's the problem with our jobs. It's 24/7. You don't leave it at the rink. You're taking it home, and when you lose, you don't sleep well, and you're watching video and trying to figure out how to get better. And then you have to sell that to the players because they get frustrated, they get down, they want to do well. And it's working together, the coaching staff, the players, and really trying to address some of the things that you need to do to prevent you from losing. And you get down into the weeds and you get down to the little things. And we started to do those better. Our schedule was a little bit more friendly compared to what we had gone through. So I didn't feel there was an urgent panic. I was just trying to figure out on Monday what do we need to do to get better.
My question is, how did they handle it? Like, how did you think they handled it?
Well, it's like some of our freshmen. Midway through the season, everybody starts looking at stats. And as a player, I used to be a player. You're always looking at your stats, and if they're doing, they're meeting your expectations, you're probably smiling and happy and going out and playing well. If they're not meeting your expectations, you're probably a little frustrated trying to figure that out. So our issue as coaches is to communicate with them and look around what's going on. So our incoming freshmen, and we have a handful of them, they've had good years. There's a bunch of players in Division I women's hockey and all sports that shouldn't be playing this year. They should have graduated last year. So different teams have multiple players. And if a team you're playing against has 6, 7, 8, I call them COVID kids, well, in a normal freshman year, you wouldn't be playing against those kids. So, you backtrack, and again, you take a view from up here instead of everybody's down in this space. And so, you have those conversations and you communicate with them. And it's, of those 5 games that we ended up losing, 4 of them we probably could have won. We played well enough to win. It was the 5th game that, down at Ohio State that we would play, up to our capabilities. We let that one get away early. But the other 4 games, I had no issues with the way we played. I mean, the results is not what you wanted. But in our business, if the goalie, and one of the goalies we played against 2 nights, one night she made 45 or 48 saves, and the other goaltender for one of the other teams had 4 or 5 ESPN highlight type saves. So hey, that's part of our environment that we live in, and so it's
Well, this being
quite a long version to your question.
yeah, but I mean, obviously, this is coming toward the end of your 20th year. I'm wondering, in terms of what you're getting out of coaching, is it the same today as maybe it was when you started? How would you kind of characterize, what you kind of get from the game?
I think you talk probably to most college coaches now, whatever sport they're coaching. Things in our world today are a little bit more challenging with some of the things that have gone on with the rules and regulations the last few years. So, but the bottom line is, I still love coming to the rink. Today was awesome, great day to practice. It's sunny out, the rink's bright, and if you like to teach the game, you got a perfect pupil in front of you to help teach and navigate through the 4 or 5 years in Madison, and try to do some things to help them become better players, but more importantly, get them an understanding, and be a better person. When they end up leaving here with their degrees, you gave them some things to deal with life. And adversity comes in a lot of different directions to a lot of different people, and how you're able to handle that and how you're able to navigate through that. We have a great tool here within our sport to be able to do that for these young ladies. So, as they leave us and they get into their lives, they're better equipped to go through life in probably a better space.
And looking back at your matchups for Minnesota this season, what are your biggest takeaways?
This is game 6, and it's probably going to be like the other 5. I mean, it comes down to who's going to play better under the circumstances. So obviously the magnitude of the game is a real high level, and you just have to clear your mind out and clear that space out and go out and play. I call it playing free. If you're able to do that, then you're going to play up to your capabilities. You're going to play your best hockey. And so can you do that? We'll find out Friday night when they drop the puck at 6.
Yeah, speaking of the magnitude of the game, you talk all year about the rivalry with Minnesota. You've been playing at the conference tournament. Your girls were so excited, but just the Frozen Four. How do you explain maybe the emotions or feelings of your team as you head into this game?
Well, again, physically they're ready to compete. I mean, we're in a good space there. We showcased ourselves the last 4 or 5 weeks. Now it becomes, like I said, it's a mental thing. And so you can't get so excited that you go on the ice and you're exhausted. So just managing your energy level as you practice this week, get all the distractions, tickets with your family, who's coming in, all that stuff, get it out of the way early. And then as we get up there tomorrow afternoon and we get into our practice up there Thursday night, just focusing in and just, it's relaxing. And then, going out, and you don't have to do anything that you haven't done all year. It's not like I have to go out and do better. No, you just have to do what you do well. And if everybody's collected in that space, then you're going to play well. And as a coach, that's all you're asking for right now is just go play well. Now, is that going to be enough to win? Again, we'll find that out. But the bottom line is we just have to play well, and hopefully the game just sort of flows in. I mean, there's multiple TV timeouts now that we have to manage, and then it's like are there going to be a lot of penalties? History shows me there really isn't a lot. In these matchups, there's a lot of penalties, so you get into a better flow with that. So, but every game's got its own picture. And what that looks like, I don't know. I got my crystal ball here, and I can rub it, and all of a sudden, here comes, we got to go drop the puck. So we'll prepare for them like we do in the past, and I think it's going to come down to who plays better and who makes plays.
It's definitely here. When you get these 4 teams, there's a lot of it's about selling the game and making sure that it gets the exposure that you'd like. When it's Wisconsin and Minnesota, that obviously helps. What does that, in the terms of women's hockey, what does Wisconsin, Minnesota mean to someone who maybe doesn't necessarily know a lot about the rivalry, but what would you say to explain why it's become what it is?
Well, part of it's number of times we've played against each other in meaningful games, whether it's for a league championship or playoff championships. We've had multiple games, and semifinals and then the NCAA tournament. We had championship games in the NCAA tournament. So you put all that together for, I've been doing it for over 20 years now. That's creates a rivalry. So you get these playoffs. They've won some, we've won some. That's how you create a rivalry. So it's no different than when I was a freshman going to Minnesota playing the Gophers at Old Williams Arena and going up the stairs and everybody's yelling at you. The only reason you're on the team is because your dad's the coach and all this. And then we go out and beat them in overtime and you leave the building feeling pretty good about yourself. So this has been in my, I don't know, my DNA, but it's been part of my world for a long, long time. So, Minnesota, Wisconsin on the men's side has always provided a great atmosphere for hockey fans, and no different on the women's side now. And the exposure that we're getting helps grow the sport. So whether it was 2 games we played up there or the 2 games we played here, the playoff game, I mean, we've had big crowds in all those venues. We'll probably have a big crowd Friday night. So on TV, expose people to what women's hockey looks like, and make it an attraction.
When you started coaching the women's team, though, Minnesota was up here, Wisconsin was kind of down
Yep.
here, but in 4 years, you closed that gap and you beat them for a championship in 06.
Yep.
What was that like?
That was us there too.
Right, in their building, right.
Yep.
What was that process like of trying to get on level footing with them, knowing that they had a bit of a head start, but you felt like you had some players that could do it, obviously.
That's where, I mean, coaching, it's like sometimes, patience is a word that's good, and sometimes patient can be hard because you want to win, and you want to win quickly, and that's what we're in business for. So when I came in, it's just a matter of, what are they doing, how are they doing it, what do we need to recruit as far as our ability to compete against them, and then, working with the players. And, that doesn't happen overnight. It takes a year, it takes a couple of years, it takes a group of people coming in and buying into what you're trying to sell them, and then, making that commitment to try to get better. And in 06, it all came to fruition, but it wasn't because of that year. It was because of 05, where we went to the quarterfinals. We played out east, and again, we were up early, and then it slipped away from us. And the team we played against that night, they had 3 or 4 Canadian Olympic players, and they were good. And they ended up beating us, but was going through that process and understanding that, hey, we had a good team that year, but we weren't there. And that group started what happened the following year. You have to have some of those experiences. So early on, having those experiences helps that next group, and the next group came in, and in 06 and 07, they figured out how to get to the end.
Having played in,
Go ahead.
having played in that arena already this season, how does that kind of help manage everything, even though the magnitude of the game is a lot bigger?
Well, it gets back to, it provides an opportunity for us as players and staff to just be in a more relaxed mode, from the standpoint that, we've bust up there, we've played in this rink for a long time. So being familiar with our surroundings and how we go about our business on the road, that helps us relax a little bit more, instead of trying to figure out how we're going to get a plane at this time of year with all the basketball going on, going into a new venue. So those things that are helpful, and playing in an atmosphere that we're familiar with, that just helps for me mentally, and the ability to relax and enjoy the process here as we get through the week.
Or if it's a long bus ride up, do you let the players just kind of be on their own, or do you try to make it a productive bus ride? I mean, what?
No, I
There's a
mean,
lot
in
of
the
time
world we
there.
live in now, it used to be when we were in the buses, and then we go back to my Monster days, you're trying to figure out who's picking the movie, and there had to be certain criteria on what movie, because you had the TV here and maybe one in the middle, and then we, same thing on the women's side, we're doing the same thing, and then all of a sudden, here come the phones, here come the tablets, and now we don't even turn the TV on, everybody's got there, and we got internet on the bus ride, so everybody sort of is in their own little space and doing what they, a lot of times the girls are doing homework, and, even last weekend, out in Colgate, on both days, we had kids taking tests and doing what they need to do school-wise, but, that's the other, nice part about this week. We're on spring break, so the kids are more relaxed. They're not worrying about papers, not worried about studying, not worried about missing classes, so that's helpful in their prep for this weekend.
You're a coach's kid. How much does that affect like how you operate? Just kind of watching how your father did it. How much do what we're seeing now? How similar do you feel it's to kind of how your father ran programs?
You can be the judge of that, I guess. I've been fortunate. I played a long time in the NHL with different coaches. Obviously, my dad's going to be probably the biggest influence on my coaching style. And but what I try to do is I try to lean on some of the experiences I had as a player. So when I first broke in the NHL and I'm on the fourth line trying to figure out if I'm going to make a career of this or not, and what I need to do to adjust my game and make sure that it's not just a cup of coffee and I'm going on with my life. So it's your ability to rely on your past experience, and I've been lucky enough, and bring forward. Then all of a sudden, I got in a position playing an all-star game in the NHL, and so it's a different setting. And so, how do you treat your top-end players? How do you treat your middle group? How do you treat your kids that might not be playing as much as they want? So, as a player, I've had all those different experiences. I've won championships. I've lost heartbreaking games. And so, if I have an issue or if I have a problem or if I have a losing streak, I can go right back and say, as a player, what would you be looking for in that scenario? And you can relate that way. People will tell you I don't scream a lot, I don't yell a lot. It's more about how do I teach and how can I teach, because that's what I enjoy doing and that's what my dad enjoyed doing too.
What makes this team unique from the other UWT teams that advanced to Frozen Four?
I think for us, and I talked about it earlier on in the year that, we probably have 10 players that were with us last year. And so how do you navigate those kids back, and kids that have been with us the previous year, whether with the national team and or the Olympic team, and then you bring your 5 freshmen into the fold, how's your chemistry going to be? And so, as I mentioned before, we're in a different space in college athletics right now. And so that ability to create team chemistry, getting everybody on the same page and going in the same direction, there's challenges involved in that. So, when you go through a period in January where everybody gets uncomfortable, and then you get all this white outside noise going on, and how do you navigate that? And so it's your ability to, problem solve and trust the process and trust the coaches. But it's easier said than done. And I think, we've got ourselves into a space where everybody's going in that same direction. And that, gives you a chance at the end to win. I've seen it with a lot of different teams I've had, whether I was playing or coaching. You get everybody on the same page and everybody's pulling for one another, everybody's holding each other accountable, everybody's encouraging one another, and you really become a team of good teammates. And you get yourself into space, and then all of a sudden, the product on the ice starts to look better. Yeah, so, and I think we're there. I mean, it's been good the last 4, 5, 6 weeks. But you have to go through those periods in your season. It's a storming period where, it may not be fun coming to the locker room. It might not be fun, practicing, but through that process, you start figuring things out. People start getting an understanding what their role might be. And I'm going to accept my role and go and do it, whether that's playing 4 or 5 minutes or whether that's playing 18 or 19 minutes. Am I going to go do that, knowing that if I do it at 100%, that gives us the best chance to win? So everybody's involved in it. And so whether it's 4 or 5 minutes, or whether it's 15 or 18 minutes, or whether it's 22 minutes, or whether my backup goalie, everybody's invested into it. And, that gets you at the end into that space where, hey, I can do something special. No guarantees, but that gives you the best opportunity.
I think it's Britta in handling some of that, managing, because when you have a captain, she's got to manage the room in a lot of ways. You have to kind of let her handle that part of it. She's a no panic, no nonsense kind of person. It seems like that's a pretty good role for her.
No, it's it can be hard to be a captain, and so because I think the most difficult thing for any team, especially at this age, in any sport, is how do you hold your teammates accountable? Whether that I have a C or an A on my jersey, or whether I'm just another player or I'm a freshman, how do we hold each other accountable? And so to say something in a constructive way, you may see it that way, but all of a sudden the person that's receiving that is getting a little angry because you're attacking them. So it's problem solving one-on-one. So I think Britta, at times in the season, I'm sure with any guy you see it, you get frustrated, especially with certain people, because you might be saying things or holding them accountable and they're not absorbing it as you'd like them to see it. So You got to stay true to who you are, and sometimes it can be hard. So we've had multiple meetings, not only with our captains and our assistant captains, but different people. And try to do that. And just try to keep everybody on the same page, and knowing some of the conversations they have might be hard. But again, you get back to adversity. It's like the sooner you learn about adversity in life, the better you're able to navigate through it, because everybody's going to address it at some point in their lives. And, how you handle it and how you go through it. You develop your character and your integrity, and what is your commitment to the group and what's your commitment to the team.